What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walk of Shame. It's your man, Ant Walker, here to talk about Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship 6 and UFC Fight Night 154, aka UFC Greenville. So let's just go ahead and talk about this Bare Knuckle thing right away. I'm really kind of at a loss for words right now. The broadcast ended for me in hysterical laughter. I really don't even know what to say about that. Paulie Malginaggi loses a unanimous decision to Artem Lobov. I believe that all the judges scored at 48-47, if I'm remembering that off the top of my head correctly. I mean, this was the exact farce we expected it to be, huh? I think this was a joke. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it being a joke. I'm okay with it being a farce. It is exactly what I expected it to be, but I guess we'll talk about this in a more serious manner. I'm not even sure how seriously I want to talk about this. I didn't even take notes during this. Normally, when I'm preparing to do a broadcast, really watching any MMA event, I will have a notepad out or a Google Docs thing up, and I'm typing away or writing some notes and some quick things. Especially if I'm going to do one of these broadcasts, I want to be prepared to talk about very specific things that happened in the fight. But I wanted to step back and watch Bare Knuckle FC just as a fan, just like not Sherdog Anthony, not MMA on point Anthony, just me, Anthony, fight fan. And from that perspective, man, Paulie should have walked away with this decision. I'm sorry, man, and I know if this is a boxing versus MMA thing, then I guess I'd be team MMA in that debate. But I don't think anybody who seriously understands a lot of what goes on in the finer points in hitting people and not getting hit could see that and believe that Artem Lobov really won that fight. Sorry, no, maybe it was a different in the arena experience. Granted, I thought the commentary team was atrocious during most of it. I thought that a lot of things in the broadcast were pretty silly, but as far as the in arena experience from a good friend of mine who's there covering the fight, he was seeing it for Artem in the arena. That gave me a big, Nick Diaz, Carlos Condit vibe, where one guy is coming forward and he might be throwing a lot, but he's not landing a lot necessarily. And the other guy is on his back foot, but he's effective being on the back foot. And speaking to a couple of colleagues of mine who were live at UFC 143 when Condit and Diaz fought for the interim welterweight title, a couple of them, they were telling me they scored it in arena for Diaz. And I remember watching that as a fan on television saying, there's no way that Condit shouldn't walk away with this win. And this is kind of the same feeling I got, man. Paulie dominated a lot of parts of this fight, and granted, he didn't beat the hell out of Artem Lobov by any stretch of the imagination, but he outslicked him most of the time. Artem didn't really land clean for most of it. Now, while I would say that Paulie's comments after the fight that he only got hit clean, once. All right, when your face is that busted up, it's kind of hard for me to side with you on that one. But I do think he's on to something there. He didn't really get hit a whole lot cleanly. And keep in mind with bare knuckle, you're gonna be opening yourselves up to a lot more cuts and a lot more bruising and the superficial wounds. So judging it by the superficial wounds, yeah, it looked like Paulie took a beating, but in reality, did he? Like, how many times did he legitimately take a flush shot? I'm sorry, I couldn't count too many of those. Please, if you disagree with me, kill me in the comments, tweet me at Ant Walker MMA and tell me I'm wrong, tell me I'm crazy. But that's how I saw it. The funny thing about it too, man, is that the so-called grudge match, and this has been a very, very heated buildup. I mean, this has been 2 years of jaw-jacking and Twitter rants and just ill-advised media tours about this ridiculous sparring session in the lead up to Mayweather McGregor. That's how this all started. And Artem Lobov wasn't even the guy in the damn ring. Yet somehow or another, we have Artem Lobov fighting Paulie Malginaggi because this is the closest he can get to Conor McGregor. You know, you can't make this shit up. You can't. This is ridiculous. It's silly. It's but like I said, I'm okay with that. But I, you know, call me a savage, call me a jackass, call me a glutton for punishment and chaos and confusion and anarchy. But man, was I the only one that was a little disappointed that they seemed to get along after the fight? I was I was really disappointed by that. I really wanted to see more hostility and more animosity continue. Now, call me a hypocrite, please. Please call me a hypocrite because I'm being a hypocrite. I'm the same guy who, talking about the Conor McGregor Khabib Nurmagomedov feud, you know, invoked images of Tupac and Biggie, and both of those young men being murdered, and the literal street violence that has taken place between those two camps. And here I am campaigning for more foolishness and more chaos and more confusion and more anarchy and more stupidity. I guess what does that make me? Oh, man. But okay. So I guess we'll talk a little bit more about this. I guess, man. Yeah, what I saw was Artem coming forward and not having a lot of success landing. Paulie just really controlling the distance. Now, everyone, and I know I jump on this walkout network. I jump on SureDog.com all the time, and I'm complaining about the idea of ring generalship or controlling the fighting area. Controlling the fighting area does not just mean that you're moving forward. There's more to it than that. If you moving forward is ineffective in actually landing your fist on your opponent, I'm sorry, you're not controlling the space effectively. Taking a back step does not mean that you're giving up ground necessarily. Taking a back step could mean that you're controlling the ring. And that's exactly what Paulie did in my eyes. He backed up, but he was controlling the space. I would be, I'm constantly frustrated by this idea in mixed martial arts and in boxing that if you're moving forward, you're winning. You're not. If you're not landing on the guy, if the guy's landing on you, yeah, you're not winning. I'm sorry. You're just not. And I know maybe a couple of people. I know one guy in particular, a good friend of mine. If he were on this stream right now, and I'm sure I'll get a text or from him later on today about this, he'll bring up Fury versus Wilder, and we always argue about that one. Hey, in that case, Fury didn't throw enough. He didn't throw enough, and that was it. That was it. If he throws like 5-6 more punches per round, he would have easily walked away with that decision, in my opinion. But yeah, to this fight, I think Paulie did enough, man. He backed up when he needed to evade shots. He was landing a lot of shots to the body. He came upstairs a few times, but he kept Artem Lobov unbalanced and swinging at air for the most part. Lobov, I was kind of surprised there were some instances, like I know he got, I think I scored the third round for him, the third or the fourth round, if I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but one of those rounds I scored for Artem because he was closing that distance. So he was getting inside and he was initiating some of the clinches. They had some strikes in there. But man, that just didn't happen much. It didn't happen enough in the fight for me to walk away feeling confident that he beat Paulie Malginaggi. I'm sorry. And this is one of the things I find really funny, the framing of MMA versus boxing in an event like this. I get it. It sells tickets. It sells pay-per-views. The Twitter timeline is ablaze with bare knuckle foolishness for a reason. I'm talking about it for a reason. They did a good job selling it. They did a good job marketing this whole thing. And here I am, the sucker with a credit card that went and purchased it. That's what's up. Hey, congratulations to Dave Feldman, Artem Lobov, and Paulie Malginaggi, who probably walked away with a lot of money tonight. More money than I'll make this year, that's for sure. So shout out to them for that. But I mean, whew, man, you gotta separate yourself a bit from reality to think that this was going to be much different than what we saw. I would say, mainly because of the style of boxer that Paulie Malginaggi is. Now, you would have to, apparently he says he broke his right hand at some point, which it wasn't much of a surprise. He was a guy who came in with a lot of hand injuries in his career that almost derailed his boxing career. But also, we may think of Paulie Malginaggi in the MMA world as the guy who got dropped or pushed down by McGregor, and the guy who's been on this ridiculous 2-year-long media tour talking about this one lone sparring session. It's a clown sort of thing. It looks ridiculous. It's farcical in that respect. But Paulie Malginaggi is one of the most skilled boxers of our era. Of his era, I should say. He was incredibly skilled. I think with just a little more power in his hands, he gave him some more power. We're talking, really, really great things for him. And even still, he still won 2 welterweight titles. I think junior welterweight and I guess just welterweight. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. But he definitely won a couple of belts in boxing, 140 and 147, if I'm remembering the weight classes correctly. And he's also a guy who's an excellent analyst with Showtime Boxing, who can break down a fight in a very intelligent manner. So this is not a guy who is going to go into Bare Knuckle FC just ready to throw down. That's not him. I guarantee you, had this fight been, if this wasn't Paulie Malginaggi in this fight, if this was any other guy you can name in the planet that was in that ring with Artem Lobov tonight and was fighting like that, I guarantee you Dave Feldman would have jumped on that mic and threatened to take half this man's purse away, just like he did the gentleman before at BKFC 5. He would have done that for sure. But that's how Paulie's going to win. That's how he's going to win. That's how he should have won, because that's what he did. Oh my God. But hey, I enjoyed it. I was entertained, despite the fact that the fight wasn't the bloodbath that everybody was hoping for in this gory grudge match, and it wasn't a sequel to Lobov and Jason Knight. Whatever, I'm fine with it. I enjoyed myself. They got my $40. Whatever. All right, so Chris Lieben and Dakota Cochran fought before that. Dakota Cochran wins the decision, and that's cool. Excuse me. Really curious about this Dakota Cochran and Brennan Ward switcheroo that they've done a couple of times now, and Dakota Cochran is spoiled the party for Johnny Hendricks and Chris Lieben at this point with those late notice opponent changes. But yeah, there's not really a whole lot else on this bare knuckle card I want to talk about, and we do have some like legitimate fights that should be discussed. And I know it's late for a lot of people. I've been at this all day long, so I'm not interested in being here all night and talking your heads off. Shout out to Rob Iman in the chat. What up, man? So let's talk about this main event for UFC Greenville. Renato Moicano versus Korean Zombie. Man, Korean Zombie. This man is a gift from the MMA gods. Like, he just delivers every single time he steps in the cage. I tweeted this out after that fight and was like, man, one of the biggest what ifs in mixed martial arts history has to be if Korean Zombie never went into the military. If he never had to stop his career and do his mandatory military service for South Korea, what level of fighter would this guy be? The most amazing thing about him, he makes these ridiculous technical improvements or shows like some insane technical ability with each fight. Each fight is like another layer to his game shown. It's nuts. So yeah, he knocks out Moicano within the first minute of the fight. Now, I see people in the chat talking about this, Rob and Mike S. And this is a fight I'm all for as well. Korean Zombie versus Calvin Kattar. Could Lord have mercy? I would love to see that fight next. So when Calvin Kattar fought a couple of weeks back, when he fought a couple of weeks back, he what this is backstage. My homie and very very well respected media member, one of the I think the lead guy over at the Score now, James Lynch. He said that he spoke with Qatar's manager backstage at that event, and he said that the UFC was trying to put together a Boston fight in the fall, and Calvin Qatar could be headlining that card since he is from Boston, and that just makes all the sense in the world. Dana White essentially confirmed the Boston target for fall as well. Korean Zombie versus Calvin Qatar to hit that card sounds spectacular. One thing about Zombie that is really cool. Now, my first experience, well, not the only time I've seen him live, I should say, but and this was I think the second MMA card or UFC card that I attended in person. When he fought Dustin Poirier in Fairfax, Virginia at the Patriot Center, the Fairfax, Virginia has a large Korean American community. So they showed up in droves to support him. So you see like the arena goes off, Korean flags everywhere when Zombie picks up that win. But then you see him everywhere else, man, and he gets this same crazy reception. He got a crazy reception like that in Greenville, South Carolina. Korean Zombie gets a hero's welcome in Greenville, South Carolina. There's no reason to think that he would not get a hero's welcome in Boston, while Boston also cheers on its hometown guy, Calvin Qatar. Sign me up. Sign me up. And here's another wrinkle of that fight that makes it so interesting to me. Thing that I love about that so much too. So Qatar showed incredible boxing skill in his victory over, I believe it was Shane Burgos that he defeated a couple of weeks ago. Korean Zombie did the same thing, man. So that's the slipping that jab like that. I actually, funny enough, for a couple nickels and dimes here and there, I do help teach some fight classes and whatnot. And one thing that I always see when you slip in the straight punches, of course you typically want to slip to the outside. Oh yeah, Qatar beat Lamas. Thank you. Yes, Qatar did beat Lamas. Apologize for that snafu there. But Shane Burgos fought recently too, and I'm tripping. Thank you. It's been a long day. But yeah, man. So typically you slip to the outside, and that's going to keep the other hand. You're going to keep yourself out of the path of the other hand, which is kind of the logical thing that's going to follow. One hand follows the other. So you want to get to the outside to where that second hand isn't going to be near you. But of course, in real time, it can't always be like that. In real time, sometimes you're going to slip toward the inside. But when you slip toward the inside, that counter better come quick. That counter better come ultra quick, and you better get that head off the center line. And that's exactly what Zombie did. Exactly. He slips it. He throws the bomb, and the head is off to the side, and his head narrowly misses that follow-up shot from Moicano. But ridiculous technical skill right there. Rob Bauman suggesting Burgos and Moicano could be a good fight. I'm with that. That makes a lot of sense. That's a very good fight. And yeah, at this point, Moicano might be relegated to gatekeeper status, but I think it might be premature to put him in that boat just yet. All right, Chris W, I see you in the chat. I'll go back. We'll go back and talk about Paulie versus Artem Lobov, because I do agree with you on that. I think the judges were way off in their assessment of that fight. So please stick around. We'll talk about that some more. But man, dude, I can't get over how incredible Korean Zombie looks every time we see him. So, that fight in Fairfax, man, where before that fight happened, a lot of people were really thinking of Korean Zombie as, he had that twister submission, but he was more of like the guy who just showed up and knuckled up. And oh man, but he shows these flares of incredible technique, that twister included. The way he just quickly capitalized on Hominick's, I believe it was like a lazy jab or something. He thought it was like a really soft jab, and he just went over the top and just cracked him in the first 6 seconds or whatever it was. I'm continually impressed by what Korean Zombie does. He did the way he countered Bermudez against the fence and put him out. Fantastic. Like, this guy just technically looks a cut above his previous version every single time we see him. And I'm very curious as to what two guys who have shown themselves to have some very highly refined boxing skill against each other in the UFC octagon. I'm ecstatic for that. I really, really want to see that fight. So that's got to be the next one for me, man. It has to be. I wouldn't be opposed to an Aldo rematch. We've been talking about that a lot too, and that might be a good one. Also, not only for the action part of it, but Aldo was kind of a lost soul now in this division after the Volkanovski loss, and even with the Volkanovski win, it's like he wasn't going to get a title shot after being finished by Holloway twice. So a lot of question marks about what to do with Aldo next, but I do think there's a market for that fight. Not only do those two names attract attention and have a knack for bringing all sorts of just glorious beatdowns, but you think about how their first fight finished, and just when Zombie seemed to be making a good account for himself and he seemed to pick up some momentum. Granted, Aldo definitely was winning that fight up to that point, but when Zombie's shoulder dislocates and Aldo swarms him, it almost felt like a really unfortunate ending, considering like the momentum feeling like it was kind of beginning to shift for Korean Zombie. Just such a big what if story, man. The homie Matt Hunter of Mixed Combat Radio on SureDog.com, obviously good friend of mine, good friend of the show. Please check out his channel, Mixed Combat Radio, as well. So always an insightful guy, good friend. So check him out. But anyway, man, he brought up a point on Twitter today. I think this actually was in response to me, where he says, like, what if a Korean Zombie versus McGregor fight at 145 look like? Whew. Oh man, the possibilities of Korean Zombie sticking around. Yeah, Rob, I agree. Aldo going to 155 seems to be what I would prefer as well, but I don't think he doesn't seem too enthused about it right now. I think he should have gone there a long time ago, but what do I know? All right, so let's move on a little bit. We'll talk about a little bit rest of this card, and then we'll circle back to Artem versus Paulie. Brian Barberina versus Randy Brown, co-main event, replacing John Lineker versus Rob Font due to the weight cutting issues that resulted in a cut somehow. Maybe he passed out and hit his head. It's the only thing I can think of. But anyway, so I like what Randy Brown did here. He forced Barberina to fight a slower fight. And that's a key thing you have to do against Barberina. You have to slow him down. You have to, because like Barberina thrives in these wild, violent brawls, these wild, violent exchanges. And yes, he may have fell victim to Vicente Luque barely, and what was that? A couple months back they fought. I believe that was like January, February, something like that. But you've seen him put like Warley Alves through the ringer. You've seen him put Sage Northcutt through the ringer. Barberina is a guy who you have to slow down. Any sort of speed and breakneck pace that you enter into a fight with him with, he's going to capitalize, man. It's going to be his area to thrive. And while you might be able to beat him, you're going to have a hard time getting there, and you're going to eat a lot of punishment on the way. Randy Brown did what he was supposed to do in that. Randy Brown definitely had himself working to his physical advantages, staying to the outside, keeping that pace slow, sending some shots up the middle to keep Barberina backed up. But then he did just enough to where he was mixing up the pacing toward what ended up being the end of the fight, just enough to confuse Barberina. He turns up that pace a little bit, starts digging to the body, and the body shot set up the finish. I think that was incredible work by Randy Brown, using his athleticism, using his height and his length to his advantage. Good stuff there. See a couple proposed matchups I'm seeing for Brown in the chat. Rob saying Brown versus Griffin. Mike has Brown versus Staropoli. I'm not mad at those at all. All right, so let's talk about Andre Ewell versus Anderson Dos Santos. Man, if you didn't know, now you know. Dre got hands. Dre has hands. Okay. Andre, well, a guy who I've interviewed a couple times. He's and honestly one of the nicest guys that I've met in the sport. Who's like a really genuinely good guy. Tries to be upbeat and positive and just a really friendly guy. A guy that personally I really like this dude. So I tried not to enter any bias into this, but man, I don't think I had to. Man, Ewell was giving him the business with them hands. Those hands were flying, man. He was giving him serious hands. Um, Definitely a fight of the night candidate. I see Mike S agreeing with that. But man, Ewell was sniping him from the outside and just countering well. Every time Dos Santos tried to come in, he was just landing shots on him. Now, I wasn't too enthused by Dre's defensive tactics. Some of the times, I think he kept his chin up a little bit too much. I think but I think he did a good job with the head movement and ducking out and whatnot. But I did wish that he mixed up the offense a little bit more, because I think as those hands, and I get why he didn't throw as many kicks, because you're dealing with a BJJ black belt. Obviously, that was Dos Santos's best method to win, and that was where he had the most success, was on the ground. So yeah, you get leery of throwing those kicks because you don't want him to get caught. But by the time those hands were flying, it was like Dos Santos didn't have an answer for it. He just really didn't, except for a good chin, and that's not the answer you want to provide. And this was I think a very good victory for Dre B for a couple other reasons. Not only did he get a main card showcase due to John Lineker and Rob Font falling off the card last minute, so what was the curtain jerker for the entire evening. Granted, it would have been on ESPN, so that's not all that bad. But he gets bumped up to the main card, which is always a good look. But to consistently put hands on him like that, well, his background is in boxing. He was a professional boxer before he got into mixed martial arts, so that makes sense that his hands were just that good. But then I think after the Nathaniel Wood fight, and I know he's got at least one, I think maybe two submission losses on his record before coming to the UFC. So you have to be concerned about, okay, his submission defense. What is he going to do on the ground when a high level guy gets him down? But he stuffs those takedowns originally. He stuffed those takedowns, and he did get taken down. He found himself popping right back up. Now in that last round, it did get scary, but he escaped. So I think for his future in the bantamweight division, man, that's got to feel good. That's got to feel real good. After what happened in the Nathaniel Wood fight, where he got taken down and pretty much controlled for the better part of those 3 rounds, to go in there and get taken down but pop back up, to go in there and stuff takedowns and give that guy hands like there's no tomorrow, had to feel good, man. So shout out to the homie Dre. I'm very happy for him on that one. All right, so we'll briefly drop in on a couple of these other ones. Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa. I had Andrea Lee winning every round. She showed really good takedown defense. And Montana De La Rosa is, someone who's done some very good wrestling in the past. Like, she didn't have much of a hard time getting down Rachel Ostovich, who has a grappling background. She dominated Nadia Kassem. Now, granted, Kassem isn't the quintessential, grappling threat, but hey, she took down a fighter and held her down the entire time, and had her way with her. She couldn't do that with Andrea Lee. And Lee looked very good in her takedown defense, defended the couple near submissions very well and stuff. So yeah, good stuff from Lee on that one. I think she definitely makes a bump up in the strawweight division with his new not strawweight, flyweight division with these eyeballs on it, thanks to Shevchenko slaughtering Jessica Eye a couple weeks back. It's a good time to make yourself known at flyweight. Granted, you're gonna have a killer waiting for you if you do get that title shot. Not that Andrea Lee deserves that title shot right now, but hey, she didn't hurt her cause for moving up that ladder. And I think if we see continued improvement from her, I think that might be interesting down the line. Not saying I'd favor her, but I'd be interested in seeing what her rise to the division looks like, and if she does continue to rise. Mike is suggesting Andrea Lee versus Caitlin Chukagian. I like it. I like that fight a lot. That makes a lot of sense to me. Chukagian getting passed over for a title shot, as Shevchenko is now going to rematch Liz Carmouche. And Roxanne Modafferi got paired up with Jennifer Maia in a rematch. So yeah, so some of those more known names at strawweight are taken, or flyweight are taken right now. Yeah, I like Lee versus Chukagian, and I think from a style perspective, that should be a very entertaining fight right there. That should be a good one. All right, Kevin Holland versus Alessio de Chirico. Not a whole lot to say about this. I mean, Holland handled that shoulder injury like a boss. Man, he handled that like a boss. And that's kind of the biggest takeaway from this. Kevin Holland found granted it was a very, very, very close decision, but he was able to win with a very clear debilitating injury and could not use his right arm for the last round. That's growth. That's growth. I like it. Dan Ige versus Kevin Aguilar was a dope fight. Yoder just dominated on Kondo. I believe that was the first 30-24 scored in UFC history, if I'm not mistaken on that. I'm just glad that the judges were not afraid of 10-8 rounds. I was just very happy about that. The judges were not afraid to score a 10-8 round. Thank you. 10-8 rounds exist for a reason. Even if the fight is primarily fought on the ground, you can win a 10-8 round. You can dominate on a 10-8 round. I like it. All right. Luis Pena, Violent Bob Ross versus Matt Wyman. Wyman coming back to this fight. Wyman hasn't fought for 5 years, and he comes back to Violent Bob Ross. That's crazy. And it looked like it. It looked like a man who was taken out of a time capsule and put into a modern mixed martial arts contest. Like his corner is calling for X guards in between rounds to handle that. Like, I'm no grappling expert, but what is an X guard going to do when a guy is rolling out of all of your leg locks and he's hammering your head in? Please tell me. I just don't get it. Like that was not the most sound advice, if you ask me. I can't quite fathom what they were thinking putting that match together. Now, for Wyman, I get it, because Wyman is a tough guy, always has been, always will be. And he's a guy who was taking on some high level fighters. He was a guy who was in there with some of the best of them. But he would want that. He would want to come back and say, hey, throw me right there in the mix of things. I'm ready. But you gotta dial it back. If you are the matchmakers, if you are Sean Shelby or Mick Maynard, you gotta say, no, that not quite there, buddy. I mean, I guess the purpose of this was to just boost up Violent Bob Ross. I get that. But man, and what's up with Wyman's corner letting this fight continue? After that first round, if I'm Wyman's corner after that first round, I'm stopping it. I'm stopping it. My fighter is not answering the bell for the next round, because not only did he have a cut wide enough to where you could read his thoughts, not only was that cut so wide open on the side of his head, somehow the doctors let that rock, which seemed nuts to me, but there was, like, your best answer was X guard, and that was your best answer to what Wyman was doing. I mean, to what Pena was doing. I'm sorry. I can't, my brain just can't compute that. No, I can't compute that, man. No, that just doesn't belong, man. That fight should have been stopped well before it did. I mean, so yeah, Pena was fighting off all the leg locks. He's landing ridiculous ground and pound for an easy 10-8 first round. 10-9 round for the second, but he was still clearly overmatching Wyman. He clearly was better than Wyman. It clearly was not much that can be done. And those leg locks kept failing. and then third round he just puts him out of his misery. Like that just Wyman's corner shouldn't have let that go on. I'm not even sure what else I can say about that. All right, so we'll talk about one of the performance of the night winners, and we'll go over like performance of the night potential and stuff on this card because it was a lot. It was a whole lot of fights that warranted some sort of post-fight bonuses. Alan Crowder versus Jairzinho Rosenstruck. I literally cracked open my beer, took a sip, sat on the table, and looked up, and the fight was over. It was over that. I'm cracking my beer as the bell rings, sit it down on the table, fight's over. That's what Rosenstruck did. That dude is a killer, man. That dude is a killer. I don't really know what we can take away from that, though. It just happened so fast. I mean, Crowder literally walked into a hard jab and then 8 ground and pound shots. It's over with 9 seconds. Yeah, on to the next one, I guess. I mean, Alan Crowder is a guy who, obviously, if they paired him up with Greg Hardy, tripping, with Greg Hardy in Hardy's UFC debut, the UFC wasn't thinking much of this guy. They weren't thinking that he was a guy who was going to win it. You know, they clearly wanted Hardy to win that fight. So I think, I guess Rosenstruck is a guy they think highly of, as they should. So, yeah, Mike is pointing out this is the second fastest knockout in heavyweight history. Yeah, that was savage. I think the first fast one was that Todd Duffy and Tim Hague. I think Todd Duffy, Tim Hague, fastest knockout in heavyweight history in the UFC. Ariana Lipski versus Molly McCann. This was an entertaining fight. I was definitely entertained by this fight. I think the right person won. McCann, she put it on toward the end of the rounds, I think, and that's what won her the fight. Otherwise, it was kind of even in a lot of parts. But I do think over time she got better at closing the distance and getting her hands on Lipski and landing some of those closer, those close quarter kind of ugly strikes. Yeah, but good fight. A very good fight. I mean, it was a good start to the night. I mean, all right, so we got to talk about Deron Wynn and Eric Spicely. Whoa, this was a battle. And I think we learned a lot about Deron Wynn. First of all, I mean, this guy is much more like Daniel Cormier than we even realize. So, of course, there are the parallels that they both are highly decorated wrestlers, both trained at AKA. In fact, Cormier being one of his mentors and like brought him in and recruited him into AKA. Apparently, he tried to recruit him in to Oklahoma State's wrestling program as well. But when went a different way. But now, of course, there's the fact that he's a short, kind of stocky build guy who's noticeably smaller than his colleagues and counterparts in his current weight class. So he has that in common with Daniel Cormier. But man, it's so many little things that remind me of Daniel Cormier. So one thing for sure is that he does take the time off during his rounds, just like Daniel Cormier. You ever notice how Cormier he keeps this ridiculous pace and action. He's up in your face. And then toward the last minute of the round, he kind of backs off a little bit, gets a little sloppier, takes a few steps back, maybe goes for more stall positions and whatnot. Wynn did the exact same thing, man. He did the exact same thing. And maybe that's a product of training with Cormier so closely that maybe Cormier is just like teaching him what he knows, and that just molds him into a Cormier clone, maybe. But excuse me, but let's talk about what Deron did really good in this fight. He looked real sharp opening up. Very hard punches. His combinations were good. Body, head, over and over again. But I do think he showed some serious defensive vulnerabilities, and interestingly enough, I mean, Cormier has the same vulnerabilities, that dipping the head to the side constantly. It's what got him head kicked by John Jones. I think when you are the smaller guy in the division, and you're dipping your head like that too much, you're asking to get head kicked eventually. One thing for sure, man, he kept falling into that clinch, kept falling into that clinch position and getting knee straight up the middle a lot. And he was doing a fairly decent job of using his arm to block some of those knees, but you can only keep that up with so much. The knee's going to generate so much power. You're going to hurt your arms. You're going to mess up. You're going to mess up your striking ability when it's all said and done. One thing I did like that he did in the clinch was the body shots, and this is something I try to do in sparring, but sparring, friends and regular training partners and stuff. I'm not trying to kill anybody. We're not in there trying to really harm each other, but so much. So sometimes you get in that tie clinch. And if you have trouble fighting the arms off, you just dig those punches to the body. And man, he was digging those punches to the body. And you could see Spice Lee just wincing a little bit every time, man. I really and also too, I think we do have to talk about how Wynn definitely gassed out. Man, he was gassed that last round. He did have a good poker face as far as when he got rocked by a lot of those knees and not showing it too well, but he definitely was gassed. You could see like his technique getting sloppier. You could see the punches losing some steam and everything. And I'm not sure if it's a thing with him just not having the cardio yet. Is the fact that he just hasn't had enough rounds in. Is it, I'm not sure. Maybe this fight just pushed him a little more. I mean, he did say after it was the toughest fight he's had so far, which I was at previously his toughest fight, and that was Tom Lawler, if I remember correctly, the Tom Lawler fight at Golden Boy MMA, and that didn't seem too difficult for him. So yeah, he got pushed a little bit here. He got pushed, but also it could have been a byproduct of him just having so much output. That's one thing you got to think about when you are someone who is heavy on the offense. You're constantly throwing and constantly throwing and constantly throwing, especially with the amount of power that Wynn has. You might gas yourself out. That's a distinct possibility. You just might get too tired. Yeah, so there's that. All right, so I would normally talk about the Bellator London card, but here's the funny thing: I didn't watch any of it, and there's a reason why I didn't watch any of it. Because tape delays, and I think they had some on the app, but the app was malfunctioning or something. And I'm just when I fire up my laptop and I'm like, all right, let me try to check some of this fight out. I'm seeing on the timeline how everybody can't watch it, and they've shown the fights out of order, and the main card is airing before the prelims, and they mixed up the bout order. And Bellator, get your shit together, please. Bellator, get your shit together. If you are on a streaming service in 2019, there is absolutely no excuse for you to be tape delayed in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Why is this a thing? Why is this still happening? There's a reason why I pay what $11, $12 or whatever a month for DAZN, so I can stream fights live or just watch them when I feel like it, not when you say I should feel like it. Like, this is crazy. So I think I think maybe right now the Bellator card might be airing on Paramount and DAZN. I'll check it out later. It's not a priority right now because I'm not staying up all night to do this broadcast. I couldn't take my eyeballs away from the two fights I was already watching and then add something else and try to find an illegal stream and all. No, I shouldn't have to do that. As a paying customer of DAZN, I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to struggle and scrape and try to connive my way into watching something that I've paid for. Sorry, not doing it. Yeah, maybe I'll check it out a little later. Just in case I want to watch something to give me a little inspiration for my post-fight column that I got to turn in tomorrow or tonight or whenever I write it. But I certainly was not going to jump through loops to watch a product that should be available very easily. Sorry, just wasn't going to do it. And it's a shame, too, because apparently there was some good stuff happening. Gegard Mousasi got upset by Rafael Lovato Jr. Not many people were predicting that, but some did. Shout out to y'all. Melvin Manhoef apparently had an exciting fight as well. My staff picks look pretty damn good for this, if I don't say so myself. So, yeah, it was a lot to be excited about for this. But I wanted to watch it live, when it's actually happening. because the results are going to get spoiled. It's not the same experience watching a fight after you know the results already. And I don't think I'm breaking any news in saying that. Bellator, DAZN, get your shit together, please. I say that as someone who enjoys the product. Get your shit together. All right. So as promised, for the homie Chris W in the chat, we will run it back a little bit with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship 6 main event. Paulie Malginaggi drops a unanimous decision to Artem Lobov. I think that decision is a joke. Simply put, a joke. Paulie Malginaggi, needless to say, is the far superior boxer to Artem Lobov. And what Malginaggi did was he turned this as much into a traditional boxing, Queensberry rules boxing match as he could. He uses footwork. He stayed to the outside. He made himself hard to hit. He made himself hard to clinch. And, Lobov did get a couple clinches. He did land a couple shots here and there. But Paulie controlled just about every aspect of that fight. I am flabbergasted by the amount of people that saw this fight for Artem Lobov. I am, to the point where I'm thinking, am I crazy? But then also I'm thinking, my timeline consists large majority of MMA people that are inherently biased about this fight. And that's okay. This fight was put together and framed with a boxing versus MMA sort of marketing campaign. It was something that they highlighted a lot during the broadcast, and they even evoked the early UFC tournaments that were style versus style. So I get it. Yeah, so your team MMA or your team boxing tonight, fine. But the boxer won, and he did it by turning it into a more traditional boxing match, by using that footwork, by keeping those close quarter things that Bare Knuckle changes the game up with out of the equation as much as he could. Sorry, Paulie Malginaggi won. He won. So, yeah. So there's that. I mean, oh man, I don't even know what the thing was. I definitely don't want to stand on any moral high ground when it comes to bare knuckle boxing at all, because we are savages, man. We consume a lot of people getting hit upside the head, and it's never healthy. It's never a good thing when someone gets concussed, but we cheer it on every week. So this, with a couple of cuts and a little more blood, doesn't rattle me at all. I don't think it rattles any of you guys in the chat or any of you guys listening or watching. See, Mike is saying, didn't Paulie get damaged more though? Not really. I mean, did he get hit enough to get but so much? I mean, yeah, he got a couple cuts, but that's the thing with bare knuckle. You take away the gloves, you take away that smooth leather surface that collapses against the skin in a soft way, and and where you're only left with the blunt force trauma. But for bare knuckle, you don't have that softer surface to kind of give. You've got hard bone that cuts the skin, and that's where you get cuts. That's all. And then I mean, granted, the one of the cuts on Paulie's face looked crazy, but it probably didn't come from a punch landing perfectly clean. Probably came from a knuckle grazing. Oh shit, a knuckle grazing his eyebrow. And that's, in the long scheme of things, that's not that big of a deal. I don't. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe damage is a scoring criteria. I believe it's effective striking, which I guess you can technically lump in damage, but damage itself isn't necessarily a scoring factor for several reasons. One of which that different people show damage in different ways. So, but yeah, man, he took a couple shots without gloves, so it's gonna look like he did. Lobov didn't look the same neither. Oh, yeah, man. Lobov should have lost his fight. I don't know how else to say it. I don't really know how else I can put it, but Paulie Malginaggi, he got robbed tonight. Everybody, he got robbed, um, but really, maybe I'm looking at the wrong things here. Maybe I'm incorporating too much actual sport into something that clearly is a sideshow. And there's nothing wrong with a sideshow. We all enjoy a sideshow, and I was part of the people laughing and giggling when all this was going on and enjoying the chaos. But it is what it is, man. Rob, I'm saying BKFC reminds me of UFC in the Stone Age. Yeah, yeah, that sounds pretty accurate. I mean, that's kind of what they were. That the way they were trying to market it, it reminded me a lot of the early UFC marketing, where granted it wasn't as crazy as blood splatter on the poster and stuff like that, but oh, they're warriors and they're trying to frame the boxing versus MMA thing, and yeah, so it had that vibe about it. But yeah, man, this was a busy night in combat sports. I'm very tired. I didn't even get to watch Glory. I had some housework to do, so I didn't get to watch Glory. Maybe I'll check that out. I got a lot of writing to do though. So yeah, so if you got any more questions, please throw those in the chat. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap this up. In the meantime, I'm gonna tell you guys what I have coming up. So first of all, follow me on Twitter at Ant Walker MMA. Also, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. I need to get some more subscribers so I can customize the name to my channel. That would be dope. All right. So what we got coming up for you guys here. I have, do I think Lieben lost? Yeah, I guess so. It was close, but yeah, I'm okay with Lieben losing this fight. And quite honestly, Mike, I wasn't really scoring that fight. I really just wanted to watch that as a fan. I didn't want to bring my media biases and trying to analyze everything, but so much. I just wanted to zone out and just watch it, and I did enjoy it for what it was. But yeah, I'm okay with Lieben losing that one. But I do think it was kind of close, and maybe I'll rethink it on a rewatch. But yeah, I'm okay with that. I think Dakota Cochran and Brennan Ward definitely have some sort of scheme going on with each other. So yeah, Dakota Cochran has made a nice bit of money off of Brennan Ward's injuries or whatever. So it's another story. But anyway, guys, I have the good, bad, and the ugly, my normal post-fight column that will be live tomorrow. So in that, I will talk about any one or combination of UFC Greenville, Bellator London, or BKFC 6. So yeah, that is going to be that for good, bad, and the ugly. Ask Ant, the mailbag column dropped today or yesterday, I believe. So yeah, it's the yeah, I answered a couple questions about the Tuesday Night Contender Series fiasco, and a couple other choice things there. So please check that out. Also, the matchmaking of Aaron Pico and Dylan Dennis. I think that was an interesting topic. And had I gone on for a walk of shame last week, I definitely would have addressed that. But I'm sorry, everybody. I was just too tired. I'm a very busy man between my day job, my media responsibilities, and I have a pregnant wife, so I'm tending to my pregnant wife all the time in between work and stuff. So yeah, I just didn't have it in me. Me and the lady just had to relax. So we'll definitely make it up, get some more content going. But I'm also going to be at UFC 239 Media Day in Los Angeles Monday. So I'm gonna have some good interviews. Hopefully I get some one-on-ones with John Jones, Thiago Santos, Luke Rockhold. Actually, I'm not sure if Rockhold's going to be there, but some of the more notable names on UFC 239. Hoping to get a word with them. So videos and articles and stuff will be posted on SureDog.com after that. Also, too, know if you guys saw this, but on SureDog.com, I started a new panel discussion show. So I'm hosting a panel discussion show where me and joined with 3 other SureDog personalities. We talk about some of the relevant news and go in depth with a few particular topics. I'm really proud of this show, and I think it's something that can do well. And I would, everybody who's in the channel, I would like your participation. I'd like you to check this out, comment, like it, subscribe, share it. Give me your feedback. I really want the feedback. I want to improve on what I do for the Walkout Network. I want to improve on what I do for MMA On Point. I want to improve what I do for Sherdog everywhere. So yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to some things that are lurking ahead too. I also will be on the ground for UFC 239, so I'm going to give you guys more content from there. So we got a lot of things. So let's run it down. Ask Ant mailbag column on Sherdog.com live right now every week. Good, bad, and the ugly. We'll be live tomorrow talking about all the fights that we saw today. Check that out. The Trenches, the live chat show I do with Jason Burgo, has been doing that for a while on Thursdays on the Sherdog.com YouTube channel. Please check that out as well. And of course, the new one, Off the Chain, the panel discussion show for Sherdog.com, that should be going live Tuesdays. So look forward to that, everybody, please. So everybody, once again, thank you for your participation. Thank you for jumping in. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. Keep it going. I love doing this, and I hope you guys love following along in this foolishness with me. So follow me on Twitter at AntWalkerMMA, and that will do it for the Walk of Shame for UFC Greenville and Backyard. Backyard Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship 6. So I'm Ant Walker, and you know what you got to do. You got to stay beautiful. You got to stay positive. And most of all, you've got to stay sexy. I will see you when I see you. Peace.